Hello, everyone. This is Chanel Pinto, and you're listening to the All About Sentiments podcast. Today, our guest has joined us from Egypt. We have Riham Adly on the other side. So, as you all know, recently I started a new series on my podcast called Podcast with Visionaries. On this series, I basically talk to people from all around the world who have gone through something in their life and they've changed that from a struggle to a success. So, Ariam, could you please introduce yourself and tell our viewers little about your journey?
I'm Riham Adly, and currently, because I've been through lots of phases of transformation, currently I work as a developmental editor specializing in memoir, and I teach a form of short story writing called flash fiction. And I've been through so much death and rebirth in my life. It's really hard to wrap it up in a couple of words, but it's been quite a transformational journey.
Yeah. Initially, when we were having a conversation, you did tell me about your divorce. So I do want to ask you about it because going through something like that is very difficult for an individual. So could you please talk a little bit about your divorce and it is just like a huge decision that a person makes. So what was a turning point in your life that made you make that decision?
I live in community and a society where women are looked at as sort of like second-class citizens, creatures created to serve, created to obey. And I can't really generalize that this is the case in the entirety of Egypt, but in sort of like the middle class society, upper middle class society, this is the case. So, I've been in a loveless marriage for 17 years, and I was not allowed to express emotion. I was not allowed to talk about my needs, talk about what I'm going through. Even getting sick, physically ill, would be looked down at. I remember difficult times in my life during my pregnancy when I was very sick and I couldn't carry on with my duties, and I was I was left to the point where I had to be carried to the hospital. So that was a very difficult experience. I kind of woke up when my body started to um, break down. I started having chronic illness. It started out with chronic dry eyes, and chronic dry eyes have no, you can't treat them. And then the rest of my body, my digestion, my I started having acid reflux, I started having ulcers, and I was just breaking down. And it was a very strong signal that something has to change, that I'm not happy with the way I perceive my life, that this is killing me, that I can no longer put others ahead and completely ignore myself, my needs, and my voice, my authenticity. I wasn't allowed to be authentic. Um, so I kept trying to treat the superficial symptoms without really looking inside. And when that didn't work, I hit rock bottom, and there was no other way than to actually go deeper. So I kind of looked for help.
Yeah.
I tried hypnotherapy, I tried family constellations, I tried regular therapy, I tried everything, and everything came down to trauma, attachment styles, low self-worth, low self-esteem. So this kind of inspired me to study psychology. And to find out more about that, I started studying psychosomatic medicine. I'm originally a dentist. That's my I have a bachelor's degree in dentistry, so I do have a background in medicine, but my true passion has always been writing because I had no outlet for expression. So writing was the way I would express, and it would always be fiction because I could not really talk about what was happening in my life, any abuse or um, there was a point in my life where I wasn't even aware that this was abuse because this is the status quo with everyone around me. So later on, I realized that I have a very strong trauma, childhood trauma and memories, that I have an attachment style that is an anxious ambivalent. So, and I actually um, realized that I have borderline disorder, and that people with borderline disorder and anxious attachment usually pair up with avoidance personalities. So my ex-husband was extremely avoidant. He had his own issues, his own traumas, his own thing, but he was, our society just it has a very rigid set of rules for you to exist within. You just work, get money, the woman serves you, and that brings children to life, and that's it. And for me, as a creative person with a voice and with an authentic character and personality that wants to come up, I'm a flash fiction writer. I host book clubs. I talk about women's voices. I've written collections, won awards. This was no longer enough for me. So there was a point where enough was enough. I've studied enough. I've had guidance enough. And I've realized that this is not what I wanted. So I asked for divorce, and I was, of course, there was a lot of resistance from family. There was a lot of, you know, framing as a woman outside the pack, and a lot of abandonment, and we're not going to support you. And there was the fear of financial support. How will I be supported financially? Because in this marriage, I had to raise the children. Although I have a degree in dentistry, I didn't work. A woman has to sit and raise the children. So I didn't work. I didn't make money. I relied solely on my creativity, my stories, my services. And I had to fight to get that divorce. I hired a lawyer, and I knew my rights. All my life, I didn't know my rights. I was constantly told that if I asked for a divorce, I'd just be thrown outside without shelter. I wouldn't even have the right for my children, which is all a lie. Once I hired a lawyer and found out that I do have rights, I fought viciously and I got my divorce, and I started all over now. I work as a certified counselor here in Egypt, and I offer developmental editing for specializing in memoir. And I left. This is my passion because I get to put everything I learned from psychology and everything I learned from craft writing, fiction and nonfiction into that. So, um, and now I'm trying to provide guidance for women who are in situations very similar to mine.
Your
I
story
said
is
enough.
really inspiring. You're such a strong person and you've been through quite a bit and like you still have like such a nice aura and you're such a positive person. So yeah, it's really amazing like your story and how you came out of it. Now, like, in our society, like women are judged for so much. Like women can't even be themselves. And even when women are trying to get out of a situation, they're judged, they're given labels. How do you think, like, as women, we can support to change our society? Like we can't force people, but what can we do as an individual to bring a change?
There's a saying in my country that a woman's biggest enemy is another woman.
Yeah.
So what we should do is that we should work together rather than work against each other. I mean, my biggest enemy were the women in my family. So if somehow we can start to show compassion and support for each other, and that's why I love working in the field of writing because writing provides an outlet for expression. Writing workshops provide very safe space for expression and bonding. And if women can have writing circles or storytelling circles where we would share our experiences and show support and show that we are there for each other, and everyone that has a resource or an experience and something um, could be of use to other women. If I have resources, for example, for um, place to stay, or if I have some sort of experience in how to deal with certain situations, um, just being together, sharing and speaking up and feeling like we're not alone. I mean, the biggest issue here is ignorance, thinking that I'm alone, that I have no one, that I'm going to be kicked out, that I'm going to look down at as someone inferior. I am already inferior. Imagine feeling even more inferior. So a woman's biggest ally is another woman. So if there could be some sort of circles where women get together, they share, they bond, they express, they help each other, everyone with whatever experience, resource that they have, I think this would create a huge difference in the community and the society, raise awareness. People who are able to do it, get out, speak, be authentic, show the others that it's possible, you're not alone, it can be done, and so forth.
I
I,
completely
I think
agree.
that's the thing. That's the like the seed, the first step.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of women are in abusive relationships, but they don't even know what abuse is. They don't even know what they're going through. So could you please share, like, what are some earlier signs of abuse that a woman can catch on and be like, actually, I'm not being treated right. That is abuse. Because abuse doesn't always have to be physical, it can be emotional. So what are some signs of abuse?
Well, the biggest sign of abuse is when you're extremely unhappy, uncomfortable, and you're expressing it, and your spouse or your mother or whomever would tell you that it's all in your head
Yeah.
and that uh, you have no right to actually complain, and that whenever you ask for the right to rest, for example, the right not to carry out certain chores or doing things. You're a human being, and somehow there's that making you feel guilty.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first sign when you find that your spouse or family members are trying to make you feel guilty for asking for something that is very human
Yeah.
and completely repressing your right to speak, completely repressing your physical symptoms. It's like you're lying, you're imagining, you're making it up, continuously putting you into a frame where all you have to do is just do, provide, serve. If you get outside of that, what if I want to have fun? What if I want to enjoy? What if I want to spend a night? What if I want to travel on my own? What if I want to meet friends and spend the night? None of that. You're not allowed to do of that. And that's like the lighter things. Of course, there's the physical abuse, um, there's a violence. That's very obvious. But the very first signs is that when you find that you're not heard,
Yeah.
you're asking things and you're being told that you're crazy or it's in your head, or how could you ask for things like that? That and another thing also is that when you give and you don't get anything back in return, nothing is reciprocated. When you try to express an opinion and the other side is trying constantly to make you look like you're stupid or you don't know what you're talking about or you're inferior, those
Yeah.
were such early signs in my marriage, and I didn't think much of it because that was the normal. It was treated like that in the family. It was treated like that with the mother. So I thought that was normal, but then it became too much. I mean, I have a degree in dental medicine. I've studied psychology. I'm a writer, and I would still be treated like I'm stupid and ignorant and I don't know anything. I'm not allowed to express my opinion, not allowed to talk about my needs, not allowed to discuss issues within the relationships, not allowed to say that, hey, you did this wrong, this was abusive, this was wrong, this is not what I want. The You don't have to beg for intimacy, or you don't have to beg for a hug. You don't have to beg for recognition. Find yourself doing that, those are major red flags. The fact that you're not comfortable, that's the very first sign. Just you're not comfortable.
Yeah.
Get
And
out.
when you were like going through all this, how did you stay resilient? How did you still have that power in you to keep going?
I think this is something, I don't know. To be honest, it's just something that is built in inside you. But I think it is the student archetype or mentality that I always want to find out why. I want to learn how to change things. And the fact that I do write and I do express through storytelling, it would always kind of like give some space for those repressed emotions. I would write about characters living in completely different lives, different settings, different cultures, but they are going through everything that I am going through. I would share my work, discuss my work, and I would do that online with, and all my readers are foreigners. And I had, that actually gave me some space for expression, some space to talk about myself, some space to show my authenticity. I was not allowed to do that in my mother tongue. So that sort of created a little balance. I couldn't speak here in front of my family, in front of my society, in front of my community, but I can speak to total strangers in another language, and I'm heard and I'm seen. So it kind of provided proof that, hey, you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's just you can do it. You can't do it here, but it's done. You can do it. And somehow that gave me some sort of strength, some sort of proof that it is doable, that speaking up your truth, speaking out your truth, or speaking out your authenticity, or even expressing your emotion is not such a big taboo. It's a normal thing. People listen, people like. I am heard. So that kind of gave me a lot of support throughout the years, in the past 17 years, when I decided to go full time into writing. And it helped me big time. I was able to build connections, create a network, and to forge really strong friendships that helped me and was there for me. And a lot of people intervened into my life, and I was able to find work, and I was able to express, and it all kind of helped in this journey.
And sometimes they say that support comes from strangers, but not familiar faces. And I think that's very true, because in life you meet complete strangers who are like maybe on the other side of the world, but they're like rooting for you, right? And cheering you on. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I want to talk a little about your Flash Fiction Club. Um, what are the goals that you set for the members?
Well, the Flash Fiction Club was a project that I started in Egypt years ago before COVID. And we would discuss really short stories. I would give members like 5 or 6 stories to read. A flash fiction is a short story that is less than 1,000 words. So it's very convenient. You have a lot of time to read the stories, but flash fiction is tricky because flash fiction focuses on an event in time. a memory, a single thing that is happening or that has happened, and it builds on absence. So a lot isn't said within the story. It focuses on emotional resonance. It is really the emotion that the story is focusing on, the journey of the emotion. So I would, as someone who has been through a lot and who has studied therapy and psychology and psychosomatic illness as well, I would always find that this form would sort of mine the subconscious or, you know, push things that need to come out from within. And very short stories that are kind of laser focused on a certain event or a certain emotion are very good at doing that. So it was kind of like group therapy rather than a book club discussion. And there were themes, and I would always look at elements of craft, character, setting, point of view from a place of healing and transformation.
Yeah.
Like, why did that character go through this mini arc, this mini emotional arc? Why did she start out so angry? We would always look at the perspective and the point of view from a healing point and transformational. I mean, I currently give workshops with the transformational language and art networks, and we always look at the transformational part in the stories. I mean, the hero's hero of transformation. So we would always look at that mini hero's journey and how that reflects in our lives. A story is really a good story when it leaves a mark or when it resonates, or when it shows you something that has been hidden inside you, or something that you're currently living and you're not facing. It's always like that. Or it shows you something that you need to do or consider or think about. So for me, this is my way of bonding, communicating, helping, transforming, um, seeing the unseen.
Right.
For me, this is a very big thing with short stories, and storytelling is all about making us feel safe because we're
Yep.
together, we're sharing, and we're feeling safe. So this is the Flash Fiction Club. I'm currently working on it on online version where I do the club and wanting to build an Instagram presence where I do pick up stories and I talk about them and share certain aspects that have to do with craft, how to write, how to uh, build better characters, point of view, but also the transformational part of each element of craft.
Right.
So for me, this is like many things all at once.
So could you please explain to our viewers what does shadow work actually mean and how did you work through it?
Well, shadow is the word itself is self-explanatory. It is the things in the shadow, the things that are hidden, everything that you just can't face, everything you were told and you just can't accept. Like I was told, for example, that I am manipulative at a young age, and I couldn't accept it. So I pushed that into the shadow. I don't accept that part of myself because of all the brainwashing and society standards of who you should be. There are parts of yourself that you learn that you have to abandon. You don't accept those parts, and sometimes you were framed and labeled as such. And there is that concept of being a woman means a source of sin. So a lot of that goes into the part that I don't accept, I don't like. It's making me feel bad. So I bury that and I hate myself for it and I abandon myself. Sometimes I punish myself subconsciously because of these things. So shadow work is integrating that, loving yourself again, accepting all these aspects, understanding yourself and integrating all that so that you're a whole person and that you can function with all your polarities. I mean, nothing's all good and nothing's all bad, and you have to accept that about yourself. that you could be strong, you can be weak. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad, sometimes you're jealous, sometimes you are manipulative. I mean, that's a coping mechanism. So sometimes I need to be that way in order to get ahead in a certain situation or in my life, very rough circumstances. I have to do that. Why should I feel bad about it? So shadow work is integrating all that, accepting all that. And the best medium for that is through writing, writing about the villains, writing about the bad characters, or writing about those bad traits.
Right.
It's the best way to integrate and to rework all that.
If someone listening right now is feeling stuck and afraid to choose themselves first, what would you say to them?
Have faith. Have faith that the only way out is within. If you don't choose yourself, no one else will. No
Yeah.
one else will ever help you or support you because everyone is wanting to support themselves. No one will be there for you. You have to be there for yourself. You're the only one who has the power and the abilities to get yourself out of it. So don't do that. Have faith. Have faith that you can do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking to me. This was amazing. And you're really a strong woman, and I cannot wait to see the places you reach. So, seriously, thank you so much for coming on my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, what a beautiful day.